Hello and welcome to the fourth tutorial in this series. Today we're going to learn how to create the roof of this building we created, the model we created in the first three tutorials. So what we're going to build today is this part here, the top part. We're also going to add the decorative cover for the balcony, and we're going to add stairs for the basement floor and for the entrance, main entrance. Alright, so let's get started. First thing I want to do is I want to take this plan of the second floor and place it underneath our model, because we're going to be modeling the balcony cover. So in order to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the plan. I'm going to make sure that the snap toggle is on, and I'm going to move on the y-axis and align this spot here to this spot right here. So now our plan is aligned, because this bulge here is also present in our model. So I'm going to move it to place. That's great. In the front viewport you can see that the plan is still in 0 on the y-axis, so it's underneath our model, which is what we want. And let's continue. Now if I had hit F3, I can see that the balcony floor we created was too long, because the balcony in the plan ends here and our balcony ends somewhere here. So I'm going to take these two vertices and take them back to align with the balcony floor here on the plan. Next thing I want to do is add thickness to this balcony floor. The thickness of the balcony floor will be the same as the thickness of our ceiling to floor distance. So if I look at the top viewport to our plan, I can see that the ceiling of the first floor ends here. I'm going to create a box, helper box, and the floor of the second floor starts here. So the distance between the ceiling to the floor is 37 centimeters. So we're going to create, I'm going to delete this box. We're going to create a shell modifier, apply it here to our balcony floor. I'm going to add shell modifier to it. I'm going to take and give it a thickness of 37, but to the other direction, because it needs to go down and not up. 37. And now we have the floor of our balcony, which starts inside the model and goes outside a little bit. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create this cover that we can see here. There is like a cover thing that covers the floor, and the height of the cover is 53 centimeters. So before I use the height, I'm going to create the cover itself using lines, same way I created everything in this model. So I'm going to choose the plan, hide unselected, just leave the plan on, and I'm going to create lines that represent the cover. The cover is represented by the red lines. The green lines represent a sunlight shader form that is up here on the roof, and we need to create this cover down here. So this is shorter, as you can see, than this one. And that's the way I know that the red lines represent the bottom cover and the green lines represent the shading elements. So I'm going to go over using the lines over the red lines. Going over the walls and until here. And go back. The red line ends here. I'm going to go here and close spline. That's great. Now I'm going to unhide everything. I'm going to hide the plan, and as you can see, I created a line that is the, let's call it a balcony floor cover, and the thickness, as we checked before, is 53 centimeters. So I'm going to give it a shell of 53, and I'm going to take it up so it covers the balcony. Now let's unhide the plan and let's see where the cover starts. As you can see here, the cover starts at the end of the ceiling of the first floor. And let's double check this. The height of the cover is 53 centimeters. That is great. I'm going to go and see. Alright, so the ceiling of the first floor, which is this one, this line here, represents the beginning of the cover. So the cover is aligned correctly on the y-axis. And the height of the cover is 53 centimeters. So everything is fine here. Let's just check that everything aligns correctly. Take it top viewport, hide the plan, and let's see if everything aligns. Because sometimes there are problems with the plan, so things don't quite align correctly. But this seems fine. You can see that the floor goes a little bit inside of the cover, but that's not a real issue, so that's fine. Oh, you can see that the floor here doesn't quite reach the cover, and on this side it goes inside, so I need to move it down. I'm going to move it on the y-axis. I'm going to choose this point here and move it up here. And now let's see if it aligns. Yes, it aligns perfectly. Now this is the exterior wall level 1, which is the level beneath our cover, so that's fine. It goes a little bit inside, but that's okay. All right. So we have our cover. Let's give it a color. The name is fine. Let's give it a outline black and the base color we're using for everything in the model. So that's fine for now. Next thing I want to do is I want to create the ceiling of this floor. So I'm going to unhide the plan and let's build the ceiling itself. This is the ceiling, the roof of our model. So I'm going to create this roof form and I'm going to place it over this model here. First thing I want to create is the roof itself. So I'm going to go over these red lines here. Let's create a line. And snap toggle is on, this is fine, and just go over the exterior lines here. Okay, so the roof goes to, this is a little bit difficult to understand, but I'm guessing it goes to here. That's the inward, like, object that gives a little bit of design to the model. So we have this in the lower levels too. So I'm going to go over the lines. That's fine. And let's close this line here. So the spline is closed. Let's convert this to editable poly. And I'm going to, you know what, no, let's go back, Control Z to go back. Now I want to create this line, the interior line, because this actually is like a railing to the balcony, to the roof. So if somebody goes up to the roof, he won't fall down because there's like a rail here. This is the rail. Alright, so I'm going to create the interior of this rail. Line here, here, that's fine. Now I am going to hide this plan and let's select this line, attach the other line to it, and let's give it a shell, small one, not inner amount but outer amount of 10, maybe more, 50. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to try and put it on top of this model and see if it aligns correctly, if everything is correct with the alignment. So, and then I'm going to continue from that point. So I'm going to take this point here. It moves only on the y-axis, so I'm going to move it on the y-axis. Now take this point and place it on top of our model. Now I'm going to take it up on the y-axis when I'm in the front viewport and place it on top here. So I didn't align it correctly because I aligned it to the balcony. I need to align it to the model itself. So I'm going to move this point here, 1 second, on the x-axis back here. And you know what? X and y-axis, just place it on top of this model here. Now let's see. It aligns correctly here. This bulge here, the inward bulge, is continuation of the bulge from the lower levels, so that's good. It is aligned to this line. Again, this is in place. And here it's in place. Everything seems in order. It looks bigger than the previous floor, but that's fine. That's just the design of the architect. So that's great. This is our railing of the roof. Now I'm going to see how high this is. So this line represents the floor of the roof itself. So I'm going to create a box from this line, that is the floor, to this line, which is our top part of the railing. This is 120 centimeters, which figures because rails are usually between 110 and 120 centimeters. So 120 centimeters is the right height for our railing. I'm going to go to the front viewport and give it 120 centimeters up. That is fine. Next thing I'm going to do is see what's going on here, because this line needs to continue. I'm going to see in the roof why this does not continue. Okay, so there's like an element here that will be on top of our roof. That's fine. Next thing I want to do is I want to create the floor, essentially the floor of the roof. So I'm just going to hide unselected everything except this railing. Let's call it roof railing, hide unselected, and I'm going to create, using the line, the floor of the roof. Close spline yes, convert to editable poly. That is fine, and I'm going to place it at the bottom of the roof. That is great. So now the roof is closed. Let's unhide everything. Let's see what we have here. So everything is fine, except one thing. There are two holes that needs to be here at the drying area. Because as you can see at our plan, there is like holes here. So I need to place holes, openings here. So I'm going to take this roof floor and I'm going to select this edge and this edge. So if I hide unselected, I can see I'm going to select 2 edges, and I'm going to connect them. Unhide everything. I'm going to connect them using the settings button. And I need 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. So I'm going to give it a value of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's fine. Now I'm going to choose this line. I'm going to take them on the y-axis only, down here. Take this line up here. This line I'm going to align to this line, and this line here. Alright, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select all these lines, edges, and I'm going to hit connect again. Let's first of all unhide all, and what I need is only one line here, so I'm going to take it down to 1 and just align it on the x-axis only to this line here. And now I can just take this polygon and delete them. Now if I look what happened, that is great. We have a hole where the hole needs to be. That is fine. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add this element here, up here, this shading element, which connects to the roof and goes outside. In order to build this, I'm going to, first of all, let's take this polygon and this one and give them a material, the base material, and give them outline black. And now we have the whole model in the same color. So now I'm going to take the plan, hide unselected, and just build this element up here. So in order to build this, I'm going to hit line, make sure the snap toggle is on, and start building. So this is the first point, 2, 3, 4. Go back here to the wall, back here to this wall, and this wall, and close spline. Yes. Okay, so now I'm going to convert this, right click, convert to editable poly, and I'm going to create these holes here. In order to do this, I'm going to select vertex, I'm going to go to a slice plane, rotate it 90 degrees, let's unclick snap toggle and click angle snap toggle, so this will rotate in offsets of 5 degrees. So if I don't hit this and I rotate, as you can see down here, the measurement is not quite right. It's like 18.5, 16.5. It's not accurate. In order, let's Control Z this, back. In order to rotate it in clicks of 5 degrees, I hit this snap toggle and just rotate it in clicks of 5 degrees to 90. That is fine. Now we have a 90 degrees plane of cutting this plane here. And I'm going to move this using the snap toggle to this spot here. Now hit slice. And now move this on the x-axis to this point here. Slice. What this does is creates essentially lines or edges. So now what I'm going to do is rotate this 90 degrees, the slice plane, and align it to the first line here and hit slice. Again here, slice, slice. Just slicing this editable polyplane in order to cut the holes from it. So that's fine. A couple of more times. Slice. And this one, and the last one here, slice. Now, as you can see, we can select by selecting polygons. This polygon here, 2, 3, I'm holding Control of course, 4, 5, 6, and just delete them. So now we have a flat plane that represents exactly the lines from the plan. I'm going to go to the top viewport and check the height of this element. Let's create a box here from this point to this point, 53 centimeters, same thing as the cover of our balcony. So I'm going to go back to what we've built and give it a shell modifier of 53. Let's unhide everything, and let's see the top viewport where it is located. So we have the floor of the ceiling here. No, this is the ceiling of our second floor, this line. So using this line I can know that this element starts 22, yes, this is the one, 22 centimeters beneath the ceiling of the second floor. I'm going to go to the front viewport, take this up for a second here, and then I can see that this is the ceiling of the second level. So I'm going to place a box 22 centimeters length and place it on top using this point of the ceiling of the second level. This is level 2 interior, so this is the ceiling. And now I'm going to place it down here. One second, I got confused for a second. Let's go back here. So this is the ceiling, and it needs to be 22 centimeters below the ceiling, the beginning, right? Yes, 22 centimeters below. So we have the ceiling here. I'm going to create 22 centimeters and place it down here. So now I can take it up to this point here, and this is the beginning essentially of our element here. That is great, and this also hides the opening that was created. If I had this, you can see that there's like a roof thing here, up here. This just covers it, so it is aligned correctly. Everything seems to be in order. Let's give it a color of outline black and base color we're using for the whole model. As you can see that this line begins before this line, so they're inside of each other. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fix this. I'm going to go to the front viewport and make it a little bit shorter, maybe 52 centimeters. That is exactly right. Alright, because things like that, if I leave it like this, spaces like this one, that there are two polygons inside of each other here, as you can see, one inside of each other, can create problems in the rendering, because the program doesn't know what to render, this material or this material. So it needs to be perfect. Let's give it a 52 value. That's exactly the right height. You can see in the front viewport that exactly the right height. Now let's see that it is right here. Okay, so after the ending of this element, we have 89 centimeters till the end of our roof railing. 89 centimeters. So let's go to the front viewport, try to create a box 89 centimeters high and place it down here. So as you can see, it's too high. I'm going to make it shorter. I'm going to give it a value of 89. That is correct. And let's delete this helper. Now let's hide this for a second. If I go to the front viewport, yes, this is the correct level of the floor of the ceiling, of the floor of the roof. So this is fine, everything is aligned. Now last thing I noticed, this line here ends after the third window here. If I go and look at our front sides of the plan, you can see that this helper object goes all the way until the back. This is because the architect that sent me this plans made a change afterwards, after he created these plans. So the right version is this one. If you have inconsistencies between these pictures and these plans, just call the architect and ask him which one of these is correct. In this instance, we know that this one is correct because I already spoke to the architect. So what we need to do is go to the top viewport and make this, let's call it shading element. Make this go all the way to this point here, because if you look at these plans, it goes until there is like a tooth here that goes inside, so it needs to go until this point. In the plan, this point is here. I'm going to choose these vertices also, and these ones. Just move them until they come to this point here. And let's give it a shell again. As you can see, this is the right position of this line. And another thing, in this cover, if we look at these directions of the plan, we can see that this cover goes all the way to the middle of the second window. But in our case here, it goes to the end of the second window, and that's another inconsistency between the plans and the sections. So what I'm going to do is leave it like this, because again I asked the architect and he told me to take this line until the end of the window and not as shown here to the middle of the window. So that's fine. Sorry. Let's continue on. Next thing we have here on the roof is, let's take and look at the plan, is these lines here. What happens here is we have this cover on top of the roof. What this cover does, it's the same height as this rail, and it covers this section here, so that if you walk on the roof to fix the sun catchers or things like that, you won't fall down inside. So we need like a railing here. In order to create this railing, again I'm going to go to the plan and I'm going to create, using the lines, these lines here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. This line doesn't go quite till the end, so I'm going to take these vertices and just align them to these vertices. This is fine. The height is 89 if I remember correctly. It's the same height as this railing, so let's see, 89. Now I'm going to choose the lines I created, so roof rail 2, and give it a height, a shell modifier, with a height of 89. This is fine. I'm going to take it here. I'm going to place, let's hide the plan. I'm going to place this point at this point here. Let's see in the front viewport, let's take it up. And I'm going to align the bottom part of this model to the bottom part here, to the floor of the ceiling, floor of the roof. Okay, so this is fine. Let's see if it aligns correctly to the floor. I'm just going to select this and the floor, hide unselected, and using the F3 I can see that it is aligned perfectly. Everything is on top of each other, and everything is fine here. Okay, let's unhide everything. I'm going to choose this one, the roof railing, and I'm going to add editable poly to it and attach this element to this one. So now we have a roof railing that is with these holes here, so the sun can go through and dry up the clothes that are inside. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is, let's go to the top viewport and check the plans, these cross sections of the roof, and you can see that there's like an element that is higher here. This element is this one here. So there's like a sunroof in our roof here. What we're going to do is we're going to create it, this sunroof. I'm going to go over the lines again. 1, 2, there's like a window here, and 3, window, window, window. Just close spline, yes. And now I'm going to place this. Now, in order to know where to place this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this using this point here on the x-axis only. So I'm going to take this point and align it with this point, the end of this line. That is fine. I'm going to take it up here. Let's give it a shell of 120 for a second. Let's see later how high it is. And I'm going to place it, the bottom part here, I'm going to place on top of the floor of the roof. So here. Alright, so now, in order to know how high this is, I'm going to go to the top viewport and see here, using the helper box, this height. It's 30 centimeters. So this cover here is taller than this railing by 30 centimeters. So if I go to the front viewport and I create a helper box of 30 centimeters and I place it on top of the railing using this spot here, I can see that what we created needs to be 119. That is exactly the height that is needed. This is great. We have created this element here. Now we could add these windows here and here. You can't actually see their height in these views that I got from the architect, but there is a cross section here that shows the height of the windows. So if this is the floor of our balcony level, this line here, which aligns with our element here, then the window begins at the floor and ends, 1 second, well, there's like a, okay, so the window begins at the floor, no, the floor begins here, the window begins 35 centimeters after the floor, and it is higher, the height of the window itself is 60 centimeters. So I'm going to add these windows here. First of all, let's give it a outline black and color, base color. Next thing I noticed, if I look at our cross section, is this part here is our shading of the balcony. So we have like a balcony here, and the shading part is up here. As you can see, it's not closed like a square. It has a tooth here and then it goes back down. So we need to add this part to our element. In order to do this, I'm going to go back here and just create this line. I'm going to take this. First of all, let's see, using the box helper, how inward it goes. It's 22 centimeters in. So let's go to the top, 22 centimeters. Now I'm going to take this, hide unselected, and create a box 22 centimeters. 22, place it here. Let's take it in the front viewport up so I can see the square. And now I'm going to create a line. Let's go back to editable poly before the shell. I'm going to go to vertices, slice plane, and slice it. Let's rotate it 90 degrees. Slice it on this line where the square ends. Slice. That's fine. And let's delete this box here. Next thing I'm going to do is unhide everything. And let's see at this cross section how this looks. So we have only one cross section. Here, this is 22 centimeters, so it needs to be 22 centimeters to the side also. So let's create a box of 22 centimeters here. Let's place it down here. And let's go back to editable poly, vertices, slice, like so. And take it down to the line where the helper box, slice plane. Let's take this helper box up here. And again, vertices, slice plane, take it up here, slice. It's great. Let's delete the box and see what we need to do here. So if we look at the top viewport, we see that the thickness of this element here is 22 centimeters. All right. So we're going to give a shell of 22 centimeters to this element. This element, let's give it a shell not of 52 but of 22. Now let's add an editable poly to it, and I'm going to take all the polygons that are on the outer side, choose them, okay, and take them up. The whole element was 53 centimeters. This bottom part is 22, so I'm going to do 53 minus 22, and there are 31 centimeters left, so I'm going to do an extrusion of 31. That is great. Now I'm going to go to the front viewport, and as you can see, it's a little bit on top of the roof level, so I'm going to take it down a notch to this line here. So now this is more accurate to the plan. As you can see, there's like a inward plane here. So it's not like a one big lump. It has like details to it. So in the top viewport, as you can see, this is the detail. This one. Alright, so I think that's enough for this tutorial. In the next tutorial, I'm going to finish off the roof. This element here, I'm going to add windows to it, here and here, and I'm going to add the details that we can see in this cross section, like this little tub on top here, and this element in the front. And then we're going to add stairs. So thank you for watching this tutorial, and tune to the next one. Thank you.